We got Catherine the Great. Not quite Catherine yet. I have no clue who Catherine the Great is. It's going to be really interesting to watch. Let's have a look and see what Catherine the Great is about.
A young girl sits alone in a cold room in a great house on the German coast and dreams of being a queen.
Okay. I believe in you, Catherine. You can do this.
That girl's name was Sophia, or Sophie, depending
Wait, what the fuck? Wait, where's Catherine? I thought she was going to be the queen.
on who's writing about her. She was born in the spring of 1729, but her mother would never forgive her for the crime of being a girl. Her mother,
my God.
young, ambitious, always wanting to
course.
be the center of attention, was deeply discontent in her life, having been married off at 15 to a man 21 years her senior. Worse still, that man was poor, at least by her standards, and
Wow.
stuffy. Her life was nothing like the glittering court that she'd known as a girl. She still had ambition. She still wanted to escape her husband's drab military post, to live in high society and see the world. And to her mind, that required a male heir. And so, poor Sophia was neglected, often told that she was ugly, yelled at for minor offenses, or simply left entirely alone. She was bright and could memorize things with ease, but she frequently infuriated her tutors by asking
Is she
questions like,
smart?
why were the great men of antiquity damned just because they lived before Christ? Or, what was the universe like before creation? She found solace only in the lessons she was taught by one of her governesses, who introduced her to French and brought her books by Racine and Molière. And all the while, her mother doted on her sickly and infirm brother, who had been born a year and a half after she'd entered the world, unwanted. Sophia would always harbor a resentment over the treatment she received compared to her brother.
Bro, honestly, like, being a girl back in the day, man, it must have just fucking sucked, bro. Like, you see all these, like, TV shows and movies and anything where you see where it's back in the day, like, the 1700s, 1800s. Like, they just get neglected, man. They literally just get neglected and just seen as nothing.
But
It's
in
horrible.
1742, when she was 13, her brother died, succumbing to scarlet fever. She had one other brother who would survive their youth, but he was a half-decade younger. And so now, at last, her ambitious mother's eye finally turned to her. But she didn't receive the warmth and the affection that she'd hoped for. Her mother's aim was to see her married. After all, her mother thought, taking her daughter out in search of a match to travel and get back to court might provide a path to escape her drab life. Unfortunately, her daughter was proud, impertinent, and arrogant, or at least so she felt. If there was to be any attempt at matchmaking, she was going to have to break Sophia of these habits. And so, Sophia learned to hide her pride, to hide her talents, and her mother began writing and visiting all of their relatives in search of a match. And she made sure that Sophia knew just what failing to find a match would mean. From time to time, she would take Sophia to see spinster relatives locked away in a convent, or shut away in a remote wing of a family house. One of these encounters Sophia would remember forever. An aunt who lived in one small room with 16 pug dogs.
What
16 pugs who did everything that dogs do in that one room. The smell would haunt her for all her days. So she rapidly became enamored of the idea of marriage. She saw it as a way out, an escape from her mother.
Hey, yo, some people would love being in a room with 16 pug dogs, so...
But her prospects were limited. Her father was not a man of great means, and though he was a prince of one of the tiny principalities that then made up the Holy Roman Empire, he wasn't even the prince of that domain, having others in the line of succession before him.
Wait, that
Her
sucks.
mother, on the other hand, was of the House Holstein-Gottorp, one of the great houses of the Holy Roman Empire. And though she was from a minor branch, she could still reach out to all her cousins. And so it was that, even before her brother died, on a visit to her uncle, Sophia met the orphaned Duke of Holstein, Peter Ulrich, 11 years old at the time. This young man was the heir to the throne of Sweden, and the last surviving grandson of Peter the Great. He was also sickly, though, doughy of features, and even at the age of 11, given to drink. This meeting would prove fortuitous in years to come, or disastrous.
Yo, you got 11-year-old acting like a motherfucking 50-year-old or some shit. Ill, sick, fucking, you know, just like lumped over. You know, he's drinking. Like, what 11-year-old fucking drinks, man?
Disastrous, depending on how you look at it. But long before that chance encounter was to change her life, as she was making the rounds looking for a suitor, attention of this type fell on her much closer to home. At the age of 14, a 24-year-old cuirassier, her cousin, began to, what was called at the time, show his affections, often finding her in some secluded corner of the house when no one else was around to kiss her. He eventually proposed to her, although she expertly put him off by agreeing to it only if he could get the consent of her parents. Then, in the middle of dinner one night, a letter came. It was from Russia, from the Russian Empress, Elizabeth. Elizabeth, whose sister had married a Holstein. Elizabeth, who was the aunt of Peter Ulrich. Elizabeth, who had been betrothed at one point to Sophia's uncle. Elizabeth, whose association Sophia's mother had been very careful to cultivate, regularly sending her news and portraits of her daughter. Elizabeth had recently become the guardian of young Peter Ulrich, adopting him as her own. And as such, young Peter had lost the right to the crown of Sweden, but had gained a much greater prize: succession to the crown of Russia. Elizabeth's letter said nothing of its purpose.
Wow, you're saying that Russia's more superior than Sweden? Hey, Sweden is a beautiful country. Sweden is a beautiful...
but simply implored Sophia and her mother to travel at once to Russia. Despite the letter's vagueness, the implications were clear. Sophia might yet find her way to being a queen, as she had so often daydreamed. But the night's surprises weren't over yet. Mere hours after the first letter's arrival, a second courier, breathless and panting, burst into the house. He too had a letter, but this one was from Frederick the Great, summoning them to his court in Berlin. Sophia's mother wasted no time starting to pack. The invitation to Russia had come with a banknote for 10,000 rubles to equip them for their journey. This, of course, went not to making sure that Sophia looked like a bride that they had both hoped she would be, but instead went towards outfitting her mother with a splendid array of court dresses.
Bro, hey, her mom, hey, she's just doing everything for herself, bro. She's literally just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna wed you off. Oh wait, you got 10,000 to make you look good for the wedding day, or like to look good for this guy. No. It's 10,000 for me to look good.
And so they began their journey, first to Berlin and then to Moscow.
What a terrible mother.
When they arrived at Berlin, Sophia's mother raced to present herself to Frederick, but to her shock, he simply asked where her daughter was. She hadn't
Bro, is she fucking stupid? Is she stupid? She's done this in hopes that she can, like, move to one of these guys. Right? This is like catfishing back in the day. You're showcasing your daughter. You're getting your daughter trying to, be married off. Right? That's what they expect. When the day comes to it and, they're expecting the daughter to be looking pretty and everything, you turn up by yourself trying to look pretty, right? That's basically back in the day catfishing. What the fuck is going on?
Sophia with her to court, thinking that the king couldn't possibly want to talk to the girl more than to her incredible self. So she said that Sophia was sick. The next day, too, she showed up at court alone, and again Frederick asked where Sophia was, and again her mother said that she was sick. On the third day, Frederick pressed the issue, and Sophia's mother said that she couldn't come because she had nothing to wear. At which juncture, a somewhat miffed Frederick the Great cut her off and asked one of his sisters to just lend the poor girl a dress, please. Finally, Sophia appeared before the king, in an ill-fitting dress without jewels or finery. She was shy,
what a terrible
worried about
mother.
What this great man might think.
What
but
a terrible...
to her surprise, and undoubtedly the surprise of her mother, she was seated at dinner that night right next to the king. Her mother wasn't even seated at the same table. The king tried to make her feel comfortable, speaking to her of poetry and of the opera, plays and ballet. And though everybody stared at the king talking to a child, he continued on and she opened up, speaking to him throughout the meal. By the end, he saw in her, hidden just below that layer of humility, an intelligence and a perception. He wrote to Elizabeth of Russia to say as much. He had been assessing her, because in his bid to make Prussia a player on the world stage, he had already created many enemies, and he knew that he would have to have Russia on his side. It was his hope that this German princess could help ensure that, but his business was not just with Sophia. In private, his agents asked her mother to be their agent in the Russian court. They explained how one Count Bestuchev was the sworn enemy of Prussia, and that he would stop Sophia's marriage if he could. And so Sophia's mother, Johanna, should do everything in her power to make him lose favor. Never again would these two rulers meet in person, these rulers whom history titles the Great. But it's far from the last time that their paths will cross.
Wait,
Join us
what
next
the
time as
fuck?
Sophia finally makes her way to Russia, and her mother sets about trying to destroy Count Bestashev.
Oh shit, that's taking a bit of a turn. Thought we was just gonna have like a nice little marriage thing going off. But oh no, wait, what the hell? They go there to marry off the daughter. Now they got some spy shit to do. I'm actually really excited to check out part 2. Hopefully you guys did enjoy that. If you did, make sure you leave a thumbs up, subscribe. I'll see you all in part 2.